I would trust the letters LIE on the sidewalk if I came across them over anything that this man had to say. Hi, my name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. By now, you've probably heard of Project 2025.
Project 2025 is a far-right manifesto. It is a 1,000-page bucket list of extremist policies that would uproot every government agency and disrupt the lives of every person who calls this country home. The Department of Education would be eliminated, cutting students off from civil rights protections and ending essential Title I funding for K-12 schools. The Department of Justice would go on a murdering spree. It would rush to use the death penalty and expand its use to even more people while circumventing due process protections. Project 25 not only calls for national book bans in schools, but also creates a list of banned words for the federal government that would be deleted from, quote, every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, and piece of legislation that exists. End quote. Here are just a few of the words on the list: diversity, gender, reproductive health, and of course, conservatives want to ban the word abortion. On that note, abortion care would be inaccessible and illegal no matter where you live. Now, we could have an entire hearing on how these policies would quite literally ruin and end lives, and I didn't even touch upon proposals for housing, climate change, worker protections, and more. If enacted, Project 2025 would destroy the federal government as we know it.
And if you haven't, boy, do I have a surprise for you. While many on the left and center have expressed anger at the status quo, myself included, let's look at the alternative, because ain't no reason to leave if outside is worse. That advice works for a lot of things, by the way.
America First Legal is a member of Project 2025, which is dedicated to creating the playbook for the next conservative administration and what it calls the Project Pillars, correct?
We are proud contributors to Project 2025.
Okay.
Project 2025 is an extensive transition plan developed by the far-right think tank, the Heritage Foundation. It is designed to steer the next GOP presidential administration, and the plan, targeting a potential second Trump White House, outlines an extreme agenda that poses significant threats to democracy, civil rights, environmental protections, and more. Project 2025 aims to fill the next GOP administration with staunch Trump loyalists, reinstating policies like Schedule F, which would allow for the at-will firing of federal employees, thus stripping them of their civil service protections. Trump and other conservatives have expressed their intentions to purge the federal government if he is reelected. The project includes online training and loyalty tests to ensure hires are unwaveringly dedicated to Trump's agenda. According to Project 2025 senior advisor John McAtee, the number one thing you're looking for is people that are aligned with the agenda. Yes, think about that. The Trump agenda at every level of every agency. Because I know when you call because you need some governmental help, the person who you want on the other end is a MAGA. Now, granted, it could still be a MAGA, but at least they're not openly MAGA. They're not encouraged to be MAGA at work. They probably don't have a hat on as they're taking your call. The Heritage Foundation's nearly 900-page policy book, Mandate for Leadership, A Conservative Promise, details Project 2025's priorities across federal departments, organized around 4 pillars: a policy agenda, personnel, training, and a 180-day playbook. Authored primarily by former Trump officials and conservative commentators linked to the Heritage Foundation, the proposals aim to severely restrict the federal government's protections on reproductive rights, LGBTQ, and civil rights, climate initiatives, and immigration. This has been backed by over 100 organizations and individuals, many funded by the Koch network or conservative philanthropist Leonard Lee. Project 2025 is heavily promoted by MAGA figures like Steve Bannon, who's called it the blueprint blueprint for Trump's second term on his War Room podcast. And that's exactly what I want, is an administration which has been signed off on by somebody I wouldn't even let use my bathroom if he came to the house and knocked on my door. Although the Trump campaign has tried to distance itself from Project 2025, because it became public, it's far more developed than the Trump campaign's Agenda 47. Given the broad support from the conservative movement and connections to numerous former Trump officials and advisors, it's likely Trump and his allies will rely on Project 2025 if he's reelected. And at this point, you have to ask yourself, do you trust him? Are you going to trust me or your lying eyes? What reason has Trump given you to think that you can't trust him? At this point, I would trust the letters LIE on the sidewalk if I came across them over anything that this man had to say. Let's start with personnel and staffing. As I mentioned, it aims to fill the next administration with tens of thousands of MAGA loyalists, reflecting Trump's vision of reshaping the federal workforce to be more directly accountable to the president. Key to this effort is reinstating Schedule F, reclassifying thousands of federal employees as at-will workers, making it easier to fire them if they don't align with the administration's policies. The project has established a training academy to prepare potential appointees, offering courses on conservative governance and the regulatory process, aiming to ensure they're ready to implement conservative policies from day one. Yes, they are putting them through indoctrination to work in our federal government. Additionally, Project 2025 makes clear that the Department of Justice shouldn't operate independently of the executive branch, implying it'll be used to target Trump's political adversaries. Imagine that. Then you have the Christian nationalism. Project 2025 intends to embed Christianity deeply into American governance, turning a biblical worldview into federal law. The foundation president, Kevin Roberts, in his foreword to the policy book, claims that the left threatens the tax-exempt status of churches and charities that reject progressive ideologies and warns of future attacks on Christian schools and clubs. So the project partners with the Center for Renewing America, a leading Christian nationalist organization. The plan includes maintaining a biblically based definition of marriage and family, opposing non-religious definitions, and promoting a traditional heterosexual family structure as a societal ideal. It also aims to embed Judeo-Christian principles into labor policies, asserting that fruitful work is integral to human dignity and service to God. Then we have the reproductive rights. Project 2025 proposes severe restrictions on reproductive rights, including removing references to abortion from federal laws and regulations, reinstating the Comstock Act to ban mail-order abortions, and restructuring Medicaid to avoid funding reproductive health care providers. It also suggests restoring Trump-era religious exemptions to contraceptive mandates and eliminating certain contraceptive guidelines. The policy book calls for the CDC to eliminate programs that don't respect pro-life stances and to shift focus to research supporting pro-life policies. It also proposes rolling back Biden-era policies, allowing abortions in VA hospitals, and repealing Title X protections for reproductive health care, which provide low-cost contraception and STD screenings. Which brings me to the Department of Justice and federal law enforcement. Project 2025 seeks to overhaul the Department of Justice and the FBI, aligning them with conservative priorities. And it criticized the DOJ for being influenced by a liberal agenda and calls for making litigation decisions consistent with the president's agenda. That's what we want. That is definitely what we want. The Department of Justice subject to Trump's whims. And by Trump's whims, I mean Fox News' whims. Basically, does that mean that Fox News is going to run the country? Pretty much does. The project also suggests reviewing and terminating major FBI investigations deemed contrary to national interest and eliminating the FBI director's 10-year term limit to increase political accountability. It advocates for a renewed focus on violent crime over politically disfavored speech, initiating legal action against progressive prosecutors and enforcing the death penalty. The policy book opposes diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, calling for investigations into entities engaged in what it deems unlawful discrimination. Yes, they put that in the project that they want to sic the Department of Justice on people that are, trying to work on diversity. That's what they're focused on. They have fully bought in. into the anti-white racism agenda. And why not? Nobody has checked them yet. LGBTQ rights, gone. Project 2025 takes a hardline stance against it, seeking to remove federal protections for queer individuals and promote conversion therapies. Yes, our federal government. Conversion therapies. It calls for ending federal research on gender identity unless aimed at enforcing gender conformity, criminalizing gender reassignment for minors, and treating transgender ideology as pornography. The project also proposes banning transgender individuals from military service and repealing policies supporting gender-affirming healthcare. Now, I've just outlined a whole lot of things. What else could they tear up? What else could they tear up? You know, this is like my little 1-year-old just looking around the living. What else can we tear up? Look up at the sky. I see twice as high. Let's tear up the environment. Project 2025 plans to dismantle environmental protections and delay climate action. Heritage President Kevin Roberts criticizes environmentalism as a pseudo-religion and labels environmental extremism as anti-human, promoting population control and economic regression by viewing human activity as a threat to nature. The initiative is backed by climate change denying groups like the Heartland Institute and the Institute for Energy Research. And what do you want to bet the energy companies are behind those? The Policy Book's Department of Energy chapter, authored by former Federal Energy Regulatory Commission head Bernard McNamee, advocates for abolishing 3 crucial offices for energy transition and reducing funding for renewable energy offices. He also proposes cutting the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, and the Loan Programs Office. A chapter on the EPA by former Trump EPA Chief of Staff Mandy Gunasakara recommends downsizing the agency, firing new hires, and eliminating the Environmental Justice Department. It also suggests reinstating Trump-era EPA rules and scrutinizing grants to align with the administration's agenda. Heritage Research Fellow Max Primorak proposes that USAID rescind all climate policies from its foreign aid programs and shut down policies connected to the Paris Climate Agreement. The policy book suggests slashing funding for numerous federal climate-related programs, and additionally, it advocates for reopening the Arctic for oil drilling, expanding other drilling projects, and leasing land in western states for coal mining. Now, obviously, it's going to have a whole lot to say about immigration. Project 2025 aims to drastically reduce both legal and unauthorized immigration through novel, extreme approaches, surpassing Trump's first-term policies. It could make the hundreds of thousands of vulnerable to deportation by revoking temporary protected status, affecting their families and communities. The Center for Immigration Studies, known for its anti-immigration stance, supports these policies. The plan seeks to cut legal immigration by dismantling the DREAM Act, restricting DACA, limiting temporary work visas, and increasing fees for migrants. It also proposes restricting T visas for trafficking victims and U visas for crime victims. And Project 2025 suggests adding a citizenship question to the census and aligning the Census Bureau's mission with conservative principles. The Department of Justice is urged with assisting the Department of Homeland Security and obtaining information about criminal aliens, especially in sanctuary jurisdictions. The plan calls for expanding ICE's authority, prioritizing the arrest, detention, and removal of immigration violators without warrants when appropriate, and penalizing U.S. citizens living with unauthorized immigrants by barring them from federal housing subsidies. It also recommends repealing all temporary protected status designations affecting nearly 700,000 people. And while we're at it, while we're tearing up stuff, why not education? 2025 proposes one of the most radical education overhauls, advocating for the elimination of the Department of Education, dissolving teachers' unions, and removing regulations on education spending. This plan is supported by Moms for Liberty and the Institute for Education Reform. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the Institute for Education Reform, but I do know a whole lot about Moms for Liberty. And if your plan is supported by them as discredited and shamed as they have been in the public lately, then you know it's trash. If you told me that Moms for Liberty endorsed this ice cream flavor, I know it's nasty. I know exactly where those ladies are coming from. Lindsay Burke of the Heritage Foundation promotes school vouchers, allowing parents to use education savings accounts funded by state and local taxpayers. The plan aims to revoke the National Education Association's charter, eliminate federal oversight for Title I funds for low-income districts, and convert special needs funding into unregulated block grants. It also seeks to abolish policies supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and critical race theory, claiming these disrupt community values. And by community values, they mean white people feeling good about themselves because they can't when they're faced with the facts of their own history. Which brings me to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Project 2025 advises the next administration to remove the term diversity, equity, and inclusion from all federal rules, regulations, contracts, grants, and legislation. The Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts advocates for this deletion, claiming DEI undermines Americans' First Amendment rights. And while I'm sure the Heritage Foundation is sure to exercise their First Amendment rights, I wonder what the diversity situation looks like in the Heritage Foundation. I'm just curious. I'm just wondering what the Heritage Foundation looks like, while they're flexing their First Amendment rights. So obviously, no DEI there, right? Ain't no DEI. The mandate calls for investigating and prosecuting alleged discrimination by DEI offices and suggests the DOJ's Civil Rights Division should focus on this for the first year of the next administration. Of all the things they can focus on, we never did get that police reform, did we? We never did get that police reform that we asked for, and there's still rampant discrimination at all levels. I'm about to do a piece about discrimination in the tax code, but we want to go with DEI. That is going to be the Department of Justice's chief focus is going to be DEI. People that are trying to undo years of discrimination, that is the focus of the Department of Justice. That is how crooked this thing is. It criticizes the U.S. Army's focus on DEI as detrimental to its mission and proposes dismantling USAID's DEI apparatus, including eliminating the chief diversity officer position and related committees. The proposal also recommends amending the Higher Education Act of 1965 to prevent accreditation agencies from mandating DEI policies. It suggests terminating Treasury Department officials involved in DEI initiatives and eliminating official DEI roles and committees within the department. Now, obviously, that relates to us a great deal, but there's more that relates to us specifically because Project 2025, it mentioned that states should have the ability to impose work requirements on Medicaid, and research and any common sense shows that mandating work requirements only fuels racial inequity given the discrimination against Black Americans that exists in the job market. Compared with white Americans, by the way, Black Americans are about half as likely to be called back for an entry-level job. In addition to prosecuting DEI, the DOJ will also focus on the boogeyman that is voter fraud, even though there's no widespread evidence of it, which amounts to voter intimidation that history tells us disproportionately affects Black communities. And even the climate change will be felt more harshly by us because low-income Black people are exposed to the most pollution from power plants and have the highest risk of death from such pollution. So that, in a summary, is Project 2025, but that's just what they put on paper. That is just what they put on paper. Those are just the outlines that they have laid out. And if there's anything we know about Trump, he doesn't obey the rule of law, even his own. So if you think that that's as far as he's willing to go, I got another thing coming. Now, this was basically the right wing not being ready for Trump winning in 2016 and then being ready to fully enact everything that they would like to see changed about America in Trump's second term. So to those of you who ask, what do we have to lose? Just about everything. Hi, I'm Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is getting a ton of smoke after making a remark about black children in the Bronx during her visit to the Milken Institute Global Conference in California earlier this month. Now, Hochul was there to promote her Empire AI program, a $400 million initiative aimed at advancing research and AI opportunities for public good through partnerships with leading New York universities and research institutions. Now, as part of this initiative, a state-of-the-art artificial intelligence computing center is planned for upstate New York to generate job opportunities. But things went all the way left when she tried to express the deep need in parts of her state.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenges.
Now, I'm gonna go ahead and admit, I'm a bit torn on this one. I am, because on the one hand, she said what she said. And as a black man, hearing that kind of rhetoric spouted about black children makes me feel a certain type of way. Like, it doesn't even go to the brain. It's just like your gut. Like you know some racism when you see it. And your body knows racism because it feels it. You know what I mean? Like, I felt a certain type of way hearing that about black children. At the same token, context does matter. The whole point that she was trying to make is the deep need that some of these kids have for access to these kinds of resources, which is something we know is most certainly true, and something that we know forms the building block of maintaining the systems of inequity that we see at play all over our society. So she said something that was uncomfortable and insensitive in the service of trying to close the divide and make it so that stereotypes like these don't exist. This actually kind of reminds me of the last Racist of the Week. Y'all remember when I asked whether or not Congressman David Trone deserved a nomination after he said this?
Once been a consideration. So this Republican jigaboo that, it's a tax rate that's stopping business investment, it's just completely faulty by people who've never run a business. They've never been there. They have not a clue what they're talking about.
Now, while I am convinced that Trone didn't mean to say what he said, it made no sense given the context, he said what he said. He said what he said, and Governor Hochul said what she said. And it actually has me asking the same questions, because in the case with Trone, I was like, why is that in your brain? I have no idea. Why is that in your brain? Because in 4 decades, I have never accidentally said jigaboo. I've never accidentally said jigaboo. Now, Governor Hochul has since apologized, saying, quote, I misspoke and I regret it. I'm gonna have to stop you right there, Governor. I'm gonna have to stop you right there. No, you did not misspeak. David Trone misspoke. He said something and he meant something entirely different. Like, I misspoke on Mother's Day when my wife asked, oh, what'd you get me for Mother's Day? And I said, oh, well, you're not my mama. That's misspeaking, okay? I misspoke. Trone misspoke. You could have been more sensitive, but you definitely said all the words that came out of your mouth were the words that you intended to come out of your mouth. Now, New York Assembly member Amanda Septimo, who represents the South Bronx, released a statement immediately after. Governor Hochul's remarks regarding young black children in the Bronx were harmful, deeply misinformed, and genuinely appalling. The Bronx I know and love is full of children who are smart, curious, and eager for opportunities to learn and grow. As leaders in New York, we have a responsibility to uplift all children and help them reach their greatest potential. Repeating harmful stereotypes about one of our most underserved communities while failing to acknowledge the state's consistent institutional neglect only perpetuates systems of abuse. I would invite Governor Hochul to visit us in the Bronx to experience firsthand the intelligence, resilience, and joy that radiate from Bronx children and residents each day. Now, a couple things about that statement. She mentioned the children, and that is something to keep in mind, because these kids pay attention. And so imagine how it must feel to have the governor of your state, who I'm sure doesn't spend a ton of time in the Bronx, so somebody you don't feel specifically connected to, but you have the governor of your state saying these kinds of things about you. How must that feel to the children in the Bronx? She also mentioned them being one of the most underserved communities, which is also something to keep in mind here as well. So not only do these kids not have a lot of recourse, there are a lot of factors completely outside of their control that have created our situation today. However, those are all motivations that the governor has in traveling down to California and trying to raise money and trying to get AI. Like the whole reason why she said the racist thing is to point to the double standards at play in our society. Man, this one is rough, man. This one got me arguing with myself. Meanwhile, Assembly member Karines Reyes, who also represents parts of the Bronx, posted, "Deeply disturbed by Governor Kathy Hochul's recent remarks and the underlying perception that she has of black and brown children from the Bronx. Our children are bright, brilliant, extremely capable, and more than deserving of any opportunities that are extended to other kids. Do better." To that statement, I love what she said about those children being deserving of any opportunities that are extended to other kids. She's absolutely right about that, and that is one of the most cruelest injustices that exists today in America is when it comes to education and what some kids have access to and what some kids don't. That was the point that she was trying to racistly make. You know what I mean? Like that kind of was what she was saying while leaning into the stereotypes. This one is tough. Look, clearly when it comes to do better, Governor Hochul clearly needs to do a lot better. She certainly could have made her point a lot better than that. And if she's talking about children, it is incumbent upon her to do no harm. It is incumbent upon her, if those children are her primary motivation, to make sure that they don't get caught as collateral damage or used as some sort of political talking point. Okay, that is of the utmost importance. And we all need to do better when it comes to the whole point of all of this and making sure we close these kinds of educational resources and digital divides. A whole lot of people need to do better. By the way, Kathy Hochul has already had to apologize this year in February after comments she made likening Canada attacking Buffalo to Israel in Gaza.
Call out Hamas for what it is, and it is a terrorist organization that must be stopped. No one, no country should live with that threat, that specter over them. And for those who don't understand this dynamic here in our own state, in our own country, I'll give you an example. I'm from Buffalo. Anybody realize that? If Canada someday ever attacked Buffalo, I'm sorry, my friends, there would be no Canada the next day, right? Right? I love Canada, but we did have the War of 1812, and they did burn Buffalo, so there might be a little conflict here. But think about that. That is a natural reaction. You have a right to defend yourself and to make sure it never happens again. And that is Israel's right.
Yes, because we all know of the great disputed territory of Buffalo. But you know what? I actually want to talk about this. And this. Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only one who saw a news peg that said New York Governor Kathy Hochul raises money for reparations, got excited, and saw it wasn't for me. Yeah, I think I need to talk about that. I'm gonna need a whole nother video though, so make sure you like the video and subscribe to the page, and throw in the comments, or you can email me at reese.waters@gmail.com, whether or not this is a David Troness misspeaking or even more than that. Show me the level of which you think Kathy Hochul was wrong in saying what she said. you go with racial slurs to support Giannis, Thanasis, Chris Middleton with a Y, Dame Dollar, Malik Beasley, Jay Crowder, Bobby Portis? Hell, that sounds like a Black Panther meeting. Welcome to a playoffs edition of Racist of the Week, where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any possible suggestions for nominees in the comments. Our first nominee, Milwaukee Bucks fans. After their Game 2 playoff win over the Milwaukee Bucks, Indianapolis Pacers guard Tyrese Halliburton detailed what his brother went through during Game 1 of the first round series.
My little brother in the stands the other day was, called the N-word. And so, it was important for us as a family, to just address that. And that was important for us to talk about, because that just didn't sit right with anybody. It's just been important to have my family here right now, and my little brother's handled that the right way.
Now, let's unpack this because I'm curious. Is this person colorblind? Does he have any idea what the Milwaukee Bucks look like? Well, our best player is Greek, and I love the Euros, go figure. So even though I've never seen a game in person on TV, I just wanted to check out the Greek freak. Oh, wow, look at that. He has a full body brown tattoo. How do you go with racial slurs to support Giannis, Thanasis, Chris Middleton with a Y, Dame Dollar, Malik Beasley, Jay Crowder, Bobby Portis? Hell, that sounds like a Black Panther meeting. Speaking of the Panthers, the greatest player in franchise history, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson. You went with racial slurs under a banner of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what? I'm gonna need some more information. Was this man wearing a jersey? I need to know. And if so, where did you find a Pat Connaughton medium? I guess that's all they had at Marshall's, huh? You know what? Let me hear that clip again.
My little brother in the stands the other day was, called the N-word. And so, it was important for us as a family, to just address that. And that was important for us to talk about, because that just didn't sit right with anybody. It's just been important to have my family here right now, and my little brother's handled that the right way.
Oh, so you went with racial slurs to insult the brother of the hometown kid from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I guess you just really wanted him to feel at home, huh? Right? So really, I'm a Halliburton fan, but I know he does his best work surrounded by racism. You should have seen him in high school. He was unbelievable. Now here's another question. How do you think your own Black players react to this when you go with racial slurs? How do you think this makes your own Black players feel? Well, I'm glad they're not going with racial slurs with me. Yeah, I guess because that means I'm one of the good ones. But I better never be traded, because I know exactly what they would say. How do you go with racial slurs knowing as soon as your season is over, you're going to be cheering on quarterback Jordan Love? I mean, really, the CC Sabathia era with the Milwaukee Brewers just must have been hell on you. It must have been hell to have him as the ace of the staff. Now, as progressive as the NBA appears, given current narratives, we've actually seen this before. Y'all remember back in 2017 when somebody spray painted the N-word on LeBron's house? Just in case he forgot. I don't know if he has any mirrors in that house. He might have forgot. He might not know. You know what? If I was LeBron, I would have left that up there just to let all those rich neighbors who said nothing as people broke into my compound and spray painted slurs on my house. I would just let them clean it up. Yeah. No, I'm just let y'all clean up since y'all just letting people come into my spot. Yeah. Cause y'all thought the inoperable truck on the lawn was taking down the property value. How about visible slurs? Yeah, how about visible slurs? We'll discuss that at the next HOA meeting. Then there are the semi-constant complaints about Boston fans. In 2020, Celtics guard Marcus Smart remembered driving near the Celtics arena when he rolled down his window to warn a woman and her child about oncoming traffic. Yes, he was concerned about her safety. Her response, quote, "As soon as I said that, she looked at me as she's wearing a number 4 green with the white outline Celtics jersey and told me, F you, you effing N." Wow. So not only were you concerned for her safety, she was wearing the jersey of Isaiah Thomas, noted black man. Here's another one, quote, "I definitely think there's a group or an amount within the Celtics nation that is extremely toxic and does not want to see athletes use their platform, or they just want you to play basketball and entertain and go home. And that's a problem to me." That was Celtic Jaylen Brown talking about his own fans. You know, it's got to be bad when your own players call it out. And those are just recent examples. Like, I wouldn't dig into the way back machine and talk about y'all treating Bill Russell's house like a porta potty. But any racism you can do, I can racist better, right? Utah, long known as an oasis of racist chants throughout the 80s and the 90s, you know, the golden age. They made sure to keep the tradition rolling into the new millennium. Quote, "When it comes to racial abuse, Utah is as bad as it gets." That was from former player Etan Thomas. In 2019, Russell Westbrook was caught on camera cursing at 2 Utah fans in the stands. After the game, he told reporters he had repeatedly faced verbal abuse while playing in Salt Lake City. Also, water is wet and the sky is blue. Quote, "Every time I come here, I encounter disrespectful remarks." He added that his response was triggered by a fan who made racial comments asking him to, quote, "get down on your knees like you're used to." The Jazz organization banned the fan for life, credit for that, while the NBA fined Westbrook $25,000. I guess for disobeying the fan, I suppose. I have no idea. I know that Russell plays in knee pads. Maybe that was an issue. It was so bad in Utah, Donovan Mitchell, their greatest player since, you know, he who shall not be named, said racism in Utah was, quote, "draining." Man, it was just one thing after another. And I will say it's not the only place it happens, but for me to receive the amount of pushback I got over the years, it was a lot, end quote. Now, I'm curious, racist, can you help me out? I'm assuming you support the team. You know, you paid your money, you come to the game. How does this help? I'm just curious, how does this help? When you have your own players saying that they are drained by the racism that they are surrounded by, I'm wondering how exactly that helps. Donovan Mitchell left for the greener pastures of Cleveland. So I gotta ask, like, is the goal an all-white team? You're trying to see if an all-white team could make it in 2024? Because if not, it sounds like you're hurting yourselves and hustling backwards. Now don't fret, Milwaukee, Boston, and Utah. There've been similar incidents in Denver. Y'all remember the reaction to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf? There was Portland, where a fan was removed from the arena for directing racist comments towards Jazz guard Jordan Clarkson. I guess that's some sort of racist get back for Utah. I guess if you play in Utah, then are you immune to it? He was just trying to see if it has settled in yet. Even right here in Washington, D.C. And by the way, that is just the fan behavior. Don't even get me started on David Stern and the dress code, the malice in the palace, and Donald Sterling. Man, I thought I could do a whole nother video on these incidents, but I could do a whole nother video just on Donald Sterling. So congratulations to Bucks fans and Celtics fans and Utah fans and Donald Sterling. You are our racist of the week. I should probably name the whole award after Sterling. I think that would be a fitting tribute. If you have somebody you would like to nominate, go ahead and leave it in the comments. You can email me at reese.waters@gmail.com, and be sure to subscribe to the page and make sure you get notified when the next video drops.
I worship God. God. and Jesus is my Savior.
You know what? This might be the one time that I actually will back her. I believe that she does not worship Donald Trump, because if she did, she would probably look more like this.
I don't worship President Trump, and I'm really sick and tired of the bullshit annex I have to deal with constantly from the Democrats.
I'm sick and tired of this bullshit! Jesus Christ is my Savior. Hi, my name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. Jasmine Crockett tried to tell you.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body.
Sorry, my bad. That was the wrong video. I mean the other one.
Unfortunately, there has been this situation with Marjorie where she is a bully, and no one ever responds. And so the idea was she would just get away with it again. And for me, correct, she basically just mimics Trump.
Now, I covered her trip to The View right here. The link is in the description. Marjorie is a bully, and they refuse to check her, which is exactly why she's actively destroying the GOP's ability to do, well, anything. Dr. Fauci appeared on Capitol Hill this week, and we got a look at what it's like when she's allowed to run unchecked.
Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no answer.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, do you know what you represent? Huh? You have any idea? You have any idea what you represent? Because the lapel on your pen says GOP, but they wouldn't save you if it was just you and Nancy Pelosi left on a boat, okay? So do you know what you represent? That is a question for you. And I also need to ask and hold responsible the person that's making all of these aids that she had. Who was it at Kinko's that made all these for Marjorie Taylor Greene? You didn't know this was going to be used for evil? Look, a wise man once said that evil flourishes when good men do nothing. Marjorie Taylor Greene came to you with all these visual aids, and you didn't know something was amiss?
But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil.
Well, as a dog lover, boy, do I have some news for you about what's going on in the Dakotas. Somebody who you may have seen at Mar-a-Lago going in and out in Christie Nome. Oh, wait, that's right. You ain't invited to Mar-a-Lago no more.
What you signed off on and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science that where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made it up as you went.
I didn't say I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments.
Now, if you recall, the original 6B video popped out because Marjorie Taylor Greene decided that she wanted to talk about Judge Merchan and his daughter, which raised the question from the back, do you know why you're here? If you recall, that started at do you know why you're here? Once again, Marjorie Taylor Greene has no idea why she's here. She has no, do you know how mad I would be if I had to be one of her coworkers and listen to this nonsense? I mean, really. And you wonder why don't nobody want to sit next to her?
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on.
First of all, get a look at the dude next to Fauci. Can't even stop laughing. He can't even stop laughing. The man knows he's on camera and he can't help himself. I've been there. It's been a couple times when I was in church and somebody tried a solo that really had no business holding the mic. And you know, sometimes joy just escapes the body and you can't keep it in.
Especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer.
Now, what you saw right there was instructive. She's not actually having a conversation. She is doing a monologue. What she is doing right now is performance theater. Exactly the kind of thing that has chased away multiple members of the GOP that refuse to be a part of this nonsense. You see an example of it right here, and this is only going to continue as long as she refuses to accept or they refuses to actively come get her. If you refuse to come get her, this is exactly who you are and what your caucus has become.
I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection. Objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Can the rest of us reclaim our time? I mean, can the rest of us reclaim our time? And I will direct this to the state of Georgia. This is on you. Can the rest of the country reclaim our time?
Mr. Chairman, of order. Just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
Suspend.
So here you have a woman without qualifications to be a doctor, without qualifications to be a scientist, without qualifications to sit in Congress, telling somebody else that they don't have the qualifications to become a doctor. And if that is in 2024, I don't know what is.
The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become? Is this what we have devolved into? No decorum.
You know what? We can do that hearing about the poor men that were injected with syphilis because I support you in that. That's horrific.
I one day want to have the complete lack of self-reflection that Marjorie Taylor Greene represents. She was just asked, is this what we've become? Is this what we've become? And she just goes full-throated, full force in the direction that she was going anyway. I mean, the level of complete unawareness, situational awareness that it takes to be able to just charge forward. I mean, the things I could accomplish. I mean, really, like if I didn't have to be bothered by disgusting everyone around me, I'd be a superstar right now.
In plastic bubbles because of your science, your repulsive, evil science. And let's go back to your very own email. You said earlier you don't use email. Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email where you said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words. But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks. Healthy children forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools.
Did somebody say muzzle? Huh? Somebody said muzzle? Yeah, over here. Yeah, over here. Yeah, take it up to Congress. Yeah, take that one up to Congress. Is it a large? You got to get a large. You're probably going to have to get a shoulder harness too, because this shoulder's kind of strong.
And then they were forced to learn from home because of your so-called science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Now, wait a minute. I could have sworn they spent the last week talking about the partisan criminal justice system, wasn't it? Wasn't it them? Wasn't it? I could have sworn ever since the Trump verdict, it was all about weaponizing our judicial system. I could have sworn, but you know what? They didn't invite her to that's right. I forgot. That's my bad. They don't invite her to the briefings, and they don't give her the talking points. She just off on her own. I forgot. This all makes perfect sense, and Lord knows she ain't on top of nobody's internet or TV coverage. So this is what happens.
You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Now here you have a woman post-COVID pandemic, the thing that was completely mismanaged by her Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, to the point where it largely cost him the election, now trying to re-legislate the things that Dr. Fauci did, who was the one that was pushing him to act, and maybe if he had, might still be in office. Here we have her re-legislating what he did to try and goad him into saving American lives after it had already been proven to be a devastating pandemic. That is what we have going on right now. And you would think that a performance like that, because after you give a performance like that, you just want to go home and chill by the couch and just replay it over in your head. And of course, you don't want to see people because you just totally embarrassed yourself. You would think that after a performance like that, you might hightail it on back to Georgia, where you will find some people that would approve of such ignorance. Oh no.
In that room? No, absolutely not. I mean, everything I said is correct. It's how the American people feel. It's what we know to be a fact. It's all the evidence has been proven true. We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump, worshiping as a convicted felon. Well, yeah, so is George Floyd.
Now that's an interesting comparison that she raises there, because I don't recall George Floyd receiving any votes for anything. I don't recall him being a nominee for a major political party. I don't recall him walking around with 80, 90 plus indictments free. I don't recall credible allegations from 26 women. I don't recall any of those things. And I certainly don't recall him saying I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose any support and still rise to become the nominee a second time after having been impeached twice. I don't recall George Floyd having done any of that. Try again.
And everybody, and you all too, the media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the fucking country over George Floyd, and Raskin is in there saying we worship him.
Now I'm gonna take a detour right now down the George Floyd street. I didn't actually want to, but I feel like I probably should. I wonder the level of willful ignorance that it takes to refuse to see George Floyd for the symbol that he was for the many black men that have been brutalized by our criminal justice system, and to focus on him as a person, because clearly that would be an easy deflection tactic if you don't want to do any actual self-reflection, if you don't want to actually do any correction and put this country back together. That's an easy diversionary tactic to throw out. I would expect that from a child or maybe the police. But here you have somebody years later still echoing the same rhetoric. And I wonder how a person walks around like that and functions with that weight of ignorance. Now we know.
Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior.
You know what, this might be the one time that I actually will back her. I believe that she does not worship Donald Trump, because if she did, she would probably look more like this.
I don't worship President Trump. And I'm really sick and tired of the bullshit annex I have to deal with constantly from the Democrats.
I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. Jesus Christ is my savior.
So that's what we just went through in there. And then they're sitting there, they can attack my character all day long. What's his face in there, whoever was talking last was calling me insane, but yet we can't say, oh, they're attacking my character. Oh no, it's nonstop BS and annex. You want to know why? The Democrats don't have anything. They're responsible for the lockdowns, forced vaccinations, kids being forced to stay home, people committing suicide, and all the horrors that this country lived through during COVID. Fauci belongs in prison. He should be tried for mass murder, and he should be tried for crimes against humanity. That's how I feel after that hearing. That's how the American people feel.
Couple things. This is like the worst example of a group project where you out here trying to help people against their best wishes. It really, really is. Like, some people just don't want saving. And there's no better example than complaining about the lockdowns after hundreds of thousands of lives were lost due to COVID. That's what you choose to complain about. I would also like to assert that in the hierarchy of Karens, because I have said that she is in fact the Capitol Hill Karen, she has to be the final boss. She has to be the final boss. Playing the victim after you just went in there and told him he doesn't deserve to be a doctor, and asserting that your character was attacked because they're trying to correct you. This is what happens when you don't have somebody actively checking you like Jasmine Crockett was, but yet still when you're able to run roughshod through all human decency, you still will play the victim. This is what enabling behavior gets you, GOP, and I hope you're proud of yourself. You created this monster. And now there is no levels of decorum she won't run over and then complain as if she's the victim after the fact. Congratulations. I hope you're proud of yourselves. Now, the one thing I can say for her, she wasn't the only one who embarrassed themselves.
You, sir, did you cite this article at the White House because the NIH director asked you to suppress the lab leak theory?
I did not do that in response to anybody's suggestion to suppress anything. It was in response to a question that someone asked at the podium. And I did not edit any paper as shown in my official testimony. So you said about 4 or 5 things, Congressman, that were just not true.
Well, we have emails to prove it.
Well, you don't.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Do you agree that there was a push to downplay the lab leak theory?
Not on my part.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
I think most of the country would find that amazing. I still got 11 seconds.
But look at the facts. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire process.
All right, I yield back.
Can I finish the answer to you, sir?
No, because I've got a lot of questions.
Okay.
Dr. Fauci.
Here we go again with no, you can't finish the answer because I have a lot of questions that I'm not going to give you time to answer because they are rhetorical questions. This is in fact a monologue. Matter of fact, all the rest of y'all can go. The rest of y'all can leave. I needed you to come in here so people paid attention to me, because if it was just me speaking, if it was just a Comer press conference, it wouldn't even make the internet. So I needed Fauci to come in so people paid attention, and now I can get some time and just say what I need to say. Thankfully, there was some sanity in the room.
That have only been in Congress for a year and a half, but I am so sorry that you are subjected to those level of attacks and insanity. Your quote-unquote so-called science that the gentlewoman is referring to has saved millions of lives in this country and around the world, and I want to thank you for that. I also think it's important to note that, in my opinion, is that you are an American hero, and your team has done more to save lives than all 435 members of this body on both sides of the aisle. You guys have worked not just during this pandemic, but over time to save millions of lives in this country and across the world. We lost 1.1 million American lives. 1.1 million American lives, 7 million lives around the world. We were having 9/11-like events, death events daily in this country, losing 4,000, 5,000 people every single day. I was mayor during the time of the pandemic. I remember how painful it was to close businesses, to shut down schools, but how quickly we forget the pain and how scared we were as a country. We were washing our groceries as they were coming in. We were keeping seniors at a distance. The tragedy that was happening in our nursing homes. Thousands of people were dying a day, and you and your team of the best and the brightest scientists in this country and the world were doing everything that you could and working night and day to save more and more of those lives.
But unfortunately, the insanity had already been unleashed, and you can't get that crazy back in the Marjorie Taylor Greene dress.
Caitlin, that whenever somebody gets up, whether it's a news media, Fox News does it a lot, or it's somebody in the Congress who gets up and makes a public statement that I'm responsible for the deaths of X number of people because of policies or some crazy idea that I created the virus, immediately, it's like clockwork, the death threats go way up.
But what's fascinating, they got so much smoke for Dr. Fauci, but absolutely none for the man that told you.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
Dr. Fauci, you talked about how, we live in partisan times, a lot of misinformation. And, colleagues on this body said, you should be, charged and found guilty. Of course, the only one that's happened to is your former boss. But, the question I have is, when you saw a lot of that disinformation, whether it was, we can use a disinfectant to do like a cleaning or do light in the body, or that, China's working super hard, President Xi's got it contained, all of the stuff that was being put out, were you concerned? What was your feeling at that time, working in the administration, seeing that come from the podium?
Well, I was very frustrated by that. It was very clear. I was put in a very difficult position that I didn't like, of having to contradict publicly the President of the United States. I took no great pleasure in that, but I felt it was my responsibility to preserve.
He must have thought you did a great job. He gave you a commendation right before he left.
Well, I felt it was my responsibility, as to preserve my own personal integrity and my major responsibility to the American public to tell them the truth. And if I could just take this opportunity, when I was saying that if you attack me, you attack science, I didn't mean that I am science. What I meant was that when the data showed that hydroxychloroquine does not work, and there are people saying, oh, it does, I'll give it to people, and we know it can be hurtful to them, then when you're attacking what I'm saying, that the science shows it doesn't work, and the science shows that bleach doesn't work, that when you attack that, you really are attacking science, because science has shown that it doesn't work. That's what I meant. When you're attacking me, you're attacking science.
None for the man who tried to downplay the entire thing. And if we needed any more evidence of what theater this was, of what complete bullshit this was, which was a B word that Jasmine Crockett missed. She missed bullshit. She also missed batshit crazy. And, I guess we'll wait until close to the election to get to the final boss of B's. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, even you wore a mask when the cameras went off. You didn't think we had the evidence? We got you in 4K. And this is exactly why I'm troubled. Because this ain't about science. If it was about science, they wouldn't be following the man that told them to inject disinfectant. It wouldn't be following the man that tried to downplay the whole thing. This is about spectacle. And Jasmine Crockett told you exactly what it was.
And because she mimics Trump, she is one of their top fundraisers, of course. Period. She is the 5th highest fundraising member of the Republican Party, behind those in leadership, because she is rewarded for her antics and for the destruction of our institution.
But I saw a member of this committee questioned whether or not you represent science and tried to make that in some offensive way. I just want you to know most Americans don't think she represents Congress.
And at the end of the day, that is all they care about.
Thomas of Wales. Danny Thomas, Marlo Thomas, Dave Thomas of Wendy's.
Listen. Because it's like one of the monsters. No, he didn't win, dude.
Day one, he is going to take over everything, and he's going to make America better again.
All right, MAGA, we need to talk. Now I get asked all the time, who are these people at these Trump rallies? They stand behind them, they yell, they hold signs that they then put up at their homes. And later get made into t-shirts. For their dogs to wear. Well, fortunately, the good people at RSBN have been working the red carpet, and I mean that literally.
I love your outfit.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Thomas of Wales. Danny Thomas, Marlo Thomas, Dave Thomas of Wendy's. They're my distant and past relatives.
Okay, I'm confused. Does he think Wales and Wendy's are the same thing? Like, does he think that Prince William just owns his own Wendy's franchise and calls himself Prince because, hey, Prince did it? And that is, of course, before we get to, what does he have on?
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Thomas of Wales. Danny Thomas, Marlo Thomas, Dave Thomas of Wendy's. They're my distant and past relatives.
Oh, very neat.
And I got the good looks.
Sometimes it happens that way.
Thank
Okay, well, I really like the get-up. First time to see President Trump?
No, ma'am. I had seen, I had seen him up in Wilkes-Barre when he was at the Santana Center 2 years ago.
Now, I, for one, am not surprised that none of those relatives are here today, meaning with him, not that they passed on, but they must be so proud.
And so what is it about President Trump you love most?
I love the most? He saved America. He will save America. He will save the world.
And you look ready to sign up and enlist, so that makes perfect sense.
Oh,
okay. Oh, there you go.
She's got her white claw. Everybody, this is the section right here.
Did I not get the memo out here or something?
But this is the section.
My goodness.
Well, there's one plus to MAGA right there. It's BYOB.
Hey, what should President Trump do on day one, by the way? Let's talk a little bit of policies real quick.
Day one, he is going to take over everything, and he's going to make America better again.
Y'all catch that? I didn't. Why don't you walk the straight line? Sorry. Why don't you run that back?
Hey, what should President Trump do on day one, by the way? Let's talk a little bit of policies real quick.
Day one, he is going to take over everything, and he's going to make America better again.
I like that.
Better.
Close the border.
Close the border. Absolutely.
Hey, no cheating. We are here to hear this semi-coherent woman make her case for day one, taking over everything and making America better again. Can't repeat a simple slogan? I can see why they think Trump is just like us.
One law and order, and that is what it is. One law. We have one beautiful law. And once that is restored...
I'm just coming with my heart and my mind as far as, our country, United States of America. Some girl said yesterday to me, want that stamp. It has a flag. Oh, I sat there and went, what, girl? That's your country. She goes, well, I do love my country, but flowers are more happy right now. So that's where our country kind of stands.
Yeah, I got you. Well,
and it pisses me off.
Yeah, it does.
She must still be celebrating 420.
Okay, this is sober.
I'm on probation.
Oh, okay. This show just gets better and better, doesn't it?
Wait, what?
Okay, this is sober.
I'm on probation.
Oh, okay. This show just gets better and better, doesn't it?
I did 10 years in prison.
This show gets even better.
Let me tell you something about Trump. Okay. He's the best, man. Okay. He did the best that he could do from people that he had to go forward on.
I agree. So for the first,
if you got some shit in the back, if you got some shit behind you, you can't say I did it, right?
Well, for the first 2 years, hang on a second.
He hadn't been in office for 5 years.
Oh, I get it. See, he's trying to make sure that you knew he was sober because he's on probation. So the fact that my behavior just makes you think I'm drunk, well, that's just a coincidence.
Wasn't working with him.
Water. My mouth is dry.
You can have it if you want to.
I like taking shit from people.
Nah, we need to call his PO. He needs a piss test immediately. And also, he just admitted to taking from people. He ain't rehabilitated.
This is the first time I've asked this question. Fetterman, how did he win?
Listen, because it's like one of the monsters.
Is he wearing an American flag onesie?
This is the first time I've asked this question. Fetterman, how did he win?
Listen, because it's like one of the monsters.
Now, how are we going to talk about disrespecting the flag? And this dude walking around and Oshkosh ain't washed.
No, he didn't win, dude. They planted him like they planted all the rest of the Democrats that get in there, that feeding the same stuff that needs to get done, what their agenda is, and he's just another one of their cogs.
In all my years of interviewing people, my personal favorite are the ones who can't put the drink down for 5 minutes while on camera. You know what? That's Oshkosh be sloshed.
Google Biden hogtie. You'll see me all over the news.
Is that a safe Google for me? Is that kind of?
Yeah.
I want to put that in my search engine right here.
The truck's right over there. That's all over the news.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, God bless you guys coming out.
And what would a Trump rally be without somebody incriminating themselves? Hey, you know that photo of a federal crime being committed against the president that he posted that was originally stenciled onto a truck? Well, I know you're not looking for whose truck that was, but that would be me. You know what I mean? That would be, you know what I mean? I know it'd be totally beyond the pale for you to try and identify and locate that truck, but it's right over there. It's right over there. Yeah. I'm just saying, you know, I don't know exactly what the ramifications might be or what the charges might be. You know, incriminating yourself like that, Rudy Giuliani would be proud.
I didn't spend as much time on Arizona as I did, let's say, with Georgia. Michigan and Pennsylvania, I know those better. I use Christina Bobb to a large extent, and I'm not putting anything off on Christina. Christina said it happened.
And I want all of the news to start asking the question, what is the crime?
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Everybody just turned their back on you at once as you started speaking. Why would they treat Bobo like that?
President Trump, when he was in office, he underwent testing for his cognitive dissonance. Unfortunately, I haven't seen Joe Biden even read a teleprompter properly.
Now I get it. Oh, now I get it. Now it makes perfect sense. All right, welcome to Street Politics. My name is Reese Waters. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. So you remember when Bobo went to college, right? And we all remember Bobo Goes to the Theater. Well, this time Bobo decided to go to court to support her Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. I mean, he must be thrilled to see you. I don't know about the gallery, though. But wait a minute. Weren't you just in court? Oh, so you must have missed that one. I get it. Blood is thicker than water, but turd, that's thicker than everything. Just make sure he gets a good... Wait, what's that? Says here he claims he can't afford a lawyer. Well, where's all the money going, Bobo? You are one lousy grifter. I tell you that. You keeping all the lawyer money for yourself. I mean, you gonna need them, but still. You know what? I bet you get a chance to get a good speech in.
Not seeing entered into it, and so we're here voluntarily supporting our friend President Trump, the leader of our movement, the leader of our party, and soon again the leader of this great country.
Nobody wants to hear from Matt Gaetz. Say a few words, Bobo. Now is your chance. Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or would you let it slip away? Her palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy.
I want all of the news to start asking the question, what is the crime? Because everyone in this court has not been informed of what the crime is. The defendant does not know the crime that was committed.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Everybody just turned their back on you at once as you started speaking.
I want all of the news to start asking the question, what is the crime? Because everyone in this court has not been informed of what the crime is. The defendant does not know the crime that was committed.
That is bad. I mean, I haven't seen shame like that since everybody got up from the lunch table on me in 7th grade. You probably ain't even gonna be able to eat with them at lunch. This is horrible. I mean, why would they treat Bobo like that?
Michael Cohen, who has lied in front of all branches of Congress.
Now I get it. Now I get it. Now it makes perfect sense because nobody wanted to be in frame when she got to Mike. Well, you know, maybe the public treated her better. Oof. Ugh, that was a disaster. That was embarrassing right there. Wait, what? She's fundraising off this? Well, of course she is. She's never met a shame she can't exploit. She's like the shame whisperer. Besides, you know, you got to get that lawyer money for your son, right? So Bobo, what did you see inside?
President Trump, when he was in office, he underwent testing for his cognitive dissonance.
Come again?
President Trump, when he was in office, he underwent testing for his cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to go back to the drawing board and try something else.
And unfortunately, I haven't seen Joe Biden even read a teleprompter properly.
Well, now I see why Trump likes you so much, because he's the only other person that could incoherently claim that somebody else can't talk good. Well, that and the touchy-feely kind of vibes that you give off. But that's it, though.
So every so often, Mr. Garcia, maybe you could just lift up that picture of our President Trump sleeping. As you say, I think he's praying. But if he is sleeping, you know, he certainly looks pretty while he sleeps.
She said it, not me. That wasn't even me. No, she said it. I ain't even say nothing. It was Bobo. She is a self-incriminating machine.
So every so often, Mr. Garcia, maybe you could just lift up that picture of our President Trump sleeping. As you say, I think he's praying. But if he is sleeping, you know, he certainly looks pretty while he sleeps. Maybe it's an endearing moment of prayer, though. I know when I fall asleep on airplanes, you know, my mouth kind of drops open. And, you know, his mouth is kind of tight-lipped. So maybe it's just a somber moment of
I mean, he's sleeping. It's been reported by multiple press outlets.
Praying. Yeah, that's right, Mama. That's right, Mama. I was praying my way through church. Yeah, the whole way, ages 3 through 9. Besides, I believe Robert Garcia would like a word.
Now let's look at public reporting. I'm only going to talk about public reporting. His criminal trial started on April 15th. And here's a summary of the press reports. On his first day of his trial, Reuters reported that Trump appeared to doze off during jury selection. On April 16th, it was reported that Trump dropped his head inside the courtroom, keeping his eyes closed before jolting his head upright. On April 19th, the New York Times reported Trump's eyes remained, quote, closed for extended periods during the final day of jury selection. On April 22nd, MSNBC reported that Trump's lawyers were fighting to keep him awake. On April 30th, NBC and the New York Times reported that Trump nodded off for significant portions of witness testimony, and as we all know, basically kept his eyes closed for hours and hours on end. On May 9th, Trump's eyes remained closed for many minutes, and Trump later, of course, dozed on and off. And the reports go on and on. May 13th, Trump was, quote, asleep during the afternoon session. On May 14th, a political reporter said Trump slouched in his seat and closed his eyes and his mouth.
Wow. Well, that's awkward. I mean, hopefully something else happens to distract people.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built butch body.
Oh, yeah. We did a whole video about that. Link in the description.
I just want to apologize to the American people. I don't think that this is the best use of our time when we are squabbling. It's one thing to have fun and laugh as members of Congress and try to find humor or some sort of lightheartedness in what we are doing. But when things get as heated as they have, it's unfortunately an embarrassment on our body as a whole. And so I just want to personally apologize to the American people for that. My apology was genuine. It was embarrassing what was going on. We had other members texting us saying, what is going on? What is happening in your committee? And my apology was sincere because I felt ashamed that was happening while we are taking care of serious business. And it's the first time in how long that we've even taken care of serious business.
You know what, Bobo? That was really nice of you. You know, I think you may have taken some steps. I think you may have learned something here.
That's delivered to my office. I'm titling it Bobert Off Broadway.
You just found a way to fundraise off of all of this? You got a play coming out? See, I told you. You can't out-shame Lauren Boebert. No, she is the final boss of shame. She is shame boss. Shameless.
It's time that Mayor Bowser gets aggressive in keeping safety here on this campus and the surrounding perimeter.
A few moments later.
I don't know what class this is, but they all get A's. America's favorite theater patron and congressional stumblebum, Lauren Boebert, decided to go to college. And no, she's not bettering herself. She just wanted to score political points during the ongoing upheaval at GW, and they were ready.
There's a bunch of congressmen coming through here. Gonna stop us from being out here? No! Are any of you afraid? No! Are we tired? No! Are we leaving? No!
But being a professional you are, Bobo, you can handle a little pushback. I mean, you are still in Congress, despite the objection of everybody with language comprehension skills.
It's time that Mayor Bowser gets aggressive in keeping safety here on this campus and the surrounding perimeter. This is something that must be addressed, and at this time, there has been... We bless Israel. We bless Israel. Those who bless Israel shall be blessed. We stand with Israel. and who we are defending. And these folks who are shouting, "Free Palestine." Well, let's see. I've seen signs here today. If you want to hear, I have seen signs here today that say queer and trans folks for liberated Palestine, gays for Gaza, from the river to sea, Palestine will be free, lesbians for Palestine, Chinese for Palestine, followed by all cops are bastards. Well, this is not only disgusting. Not only is this disgusting, but let me be clear. Not only is this disgusting, but let me be very clear. Almost every single person in this so-called liberated zone would be eviscerated by the very terrorists you are standing here supporting. We stand with Israel. We stand for peace in Washington, D.C., and the mayor must step up and do something to clear this. This is not the summer of love, and we are not bowing a knee to the terrorists who caused the riots and chaoses in our cities anymore. And if the faculty here, who many are involved in this right now, I had people proudly saying that they are faculty and not wanting to remove a Palestinian sign from the George Washington statue. If they don't want to do something to address this, well then kiss your federal funding goodbye.
All right, guys, there's a really big difference between Palestine and what you guys are seeing behind us. We know for a fact that there are professional organized protesters that are not students who are currently inciting what you're seeing happening at this community right now. There's also a big difference.
Yes, it is very important to keep safety here on campus. The irony of the Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale, and the Big Steppers t-shirt honoring one of the great wordsmiths of our time alongside somebody struggling with basic Websters.
This is something that must be addressed, and at this time, there has been... We bless Israel. We bless Israel. Those who bless Israel shall be blessed.
Haven't I heard that before?
It was the covenant that God made with Abraham. And that covenant was real clear. If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you. And then in the New Testament, it was confirmed that all nations would be blessed through you.
We stand with Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East. That is who we stand for and who we are defending.
Yes, the biblical approach to legislation and foreign relations. And to that I say, Lauren Boebert, what time will you be stoned?
We stand with Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East. That is who we stand for and who we are defending.
Now, granted, I've just established she doesn't have the greatest grasp on the language, but it is ironic. She said Israel is who we stand with. That is who we stand for. And I actually think of that as a bit of a Freudian slip. That is exactly who we stand for, not for freedom or for peace or for goodwill or for democracy. We stand for Israel.
And these folks who are shouting, "Free Palestine," well, let's see. I've seen signs here today. If you want to hear.
I don't think they want to hear.
I have seen signs here today that say queer and trans folks for liberated Palestine.
Okay.
Gays for Gaza.
Okay.
Lesbians for Palestine.
Okay.
Chinese for Palestine.
Oh, no, not the Chinese. Not the Chinese. I thought it would be a cold day before I saw Chinese for Okay.
Followed by all cops are bastards.
Well, to be honest, those appear at every rally and protest. I mean, I saw a ACAB sign at a protest to change the team's name back to Washington Football Team.
Well, this is not only disgusting.
I don't know why she thought that was so funny. I told you were going to need this bullhorn. I told you before we left you were going to need this bullhorn. You were like, no, I'm Lauren Boebert. They want to listen to me. I know you're Lauren Boebert. That's why I think you're going to need this bullhorn.
Not only is this disgusting, but let me be clear. Not only is this disgusting.
Now, why you gotta go and ruin everything? We could have had perfectly good video of her talking into the megaphone that was turned off. Why can't we have nice things?
But let me be very clear. Almost every single person in this so-called liberated zone would be eviscerated by the very terrorists you are standing here supporting.
Okay, now I'm gonna try and catch the logic for that one. So your logic is because they wouldn't accept you, therefore there's no need for you to stand up for them being persecuted because you are also persecuted and they would have been one of the people that would persecute you, so you should let their persecution go because of your persecution. That's pretty pro-persecution, if you ask me. That's extremely pro-persecution.
We stand with Israel. We stand for peace in Washington, D.C., and the mayor must step up and do something to clear this. This is not the summer of love.
Well, see, that was confusing. I would love a return to the summer of love, quite frankly. I don't know why she brought that up. I mean, the summer of love sounds like the most fun time people ever had in the history of human existence. Maybe going back to the Roaring 20s. I bet the Roaring 20s and the summer of love is like 1 and 2 for times I would want to be like 25. Like that sounds amazing.
And if the faculty here, who many are involved in this right now, I had people proudly saying that they are faculty and not wanting to remove a Palestinian sign from the George Washington statue.
I would like to amend my earlier statement. I would not have enjoyed the Roaring 20s. No, that is one of the sad facts of being black in America. They always like, oh, when would you want to be alive? And the earliest we could say is like 1993.
If they don't want to do something to address this, well then kiss your federal funding goodbye.
Well, that is not going to look good, but you know what will? If you do something physical, you know what I mean? Get some good video just defying the students. You know what? Go for the flag.
We're blocking it. Everyone else is blocking it, sir.
We've all been there before. You know when you tell somebody off and try and leave and then the elevator takes forever? You just know she was ready to get that good video, symbolically removing the flag. I know you're used to doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but sometimes, Bobo, no means no.
Excuse me, that's not private. Excuse me. This is private property. This is America, and that shit needs to come down. This is private property.
Now this one was a bit confusing to me. Private property. So if it's private property, is it your private property? Because you arguing that it's private property, how does that help your jurisdiction over what happens to the private property? You just feel like any private property is yours? You just feel like you get to say whatever happens to any private property? And yes, I know private is your particular jurisdiction.
Are you a student here?
I'm on faculty here.
Then climb up there and get that down.
The flag is personal property.
The statue is not. Get it down.
It's personal property.
The conversation with the faculty member was hilarious too, because he clearly wasn't with the shits at all, was not at all with the shits, and clearly has more reason to be there and more say in what happens than she does, and he ain't having it. But the fact that you still demanded that he remove the flag, so you just think all the faculty is just maintenance? Is that what you think happens at the school? Just all faculty is just maintenance? I demand you remove this flag. I teach algebra, ma'am. I teach advanced algebra. Is that the math they study in college?
The statue is not. Get it down.
I am Lauren Boebert, and I demand you remove this flag from this private property that's not mine. at this point, you just gotta leave. I mean, at this point, you just gotta leave. I mean, you tried to get some good content for social media, and it went poorly. Hey, it happens. Just ask Nicki Minaj. It just warms my heart to see kids just civically engaged like this. I mean, they basically ready for the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
That folks think what's going on in Congress is political theater. That's not true. If Congress were theater, they'd have thrown out Lauren Boebert a long time ago.
Do you have anything to say for yourself?
But I will not vote for an unconstitutional resolution that tramples our First Amendment and failed to go through any regular vetting process or regular order in committee that legislation should be held to. Our right to our freedom of speech applies to everyone. Inciting violence does not. I will not violate my constitutional principles for a bill that remains too vague to have any positive impact.
Oh my gosh! So what just happened? Did I just agree with Lauren Boebert? Did that just happen? I'm gonna have to do a whole nother video about this act, by the way. That one is coming soon. Anything else?
We have a slim majority in the House, and everything's being passed overwhelmingly with Democrat support. So it makes no difference to me if it's Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker or Mike Johnson right now.
Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes.
Out here sounding like me lying to my mama at 7 years old. Are those cookies under your bed? I'm glad you brought that to my attention. Hi, welcome to Street Politics. My name is Reese Waters. Thank you for joining me, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. It all started as an uproar over a dog named Cricket.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem released a new book. The Guardian got its hands on a copy, and the outlet is flagging a section in which she describes killing her dog named Cricket.
I did a whole video about that. The link is in the bio. But what started as an uproar over a dog named Cricket is now ballooned into a full-fledged career killer for Kristi Noem.
I have 4 rescues, and I have a puppy. I got to tell you, you know what she's done is she's sabotaged herself, whether or not it was to buttress what was coming down the road. But she also managed to unite the right and the left, because America, if nothing else, we are dog lovers. And don't tell me you shot a pup because it wasn't used to hunting. You know, maybe you're not a good teacher. Yeah. Maybe there's a problem. And this whole thing with the chickens, were the chickens dead? Was your dog on their property? Should you have had your dog on a leash? Should your farm have been fenced? I could go on and on because I love dogs.
I mean, when you lose Janine Pirro, it is over. She wakes up every day with the express purpose to say things that make you think, she was a judge?
Don't you ever accuse me. Wait a minute. I listen to you. You listen to me. Sitting on your butt with your friends, pontificating. Pervert, I'm talking to you. Who has a drug problem, an alcohol problem? Just the other day, the president talked or was hoping. Who likes to drive drunk?
And even she wasn't on board. Now, most people would have said, you know what, that's it. I'm just going to go and retire to my ranch in the Dakotas, in between the chickens and the gravel pit. But South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem decided she needed to go on a press tour. And as we do, if you want more, we'll give you more.
So you write about lessons learned in leadership, and you bring up some specific incidents I want to ask you about. You talk about meeting some world leaders, and one specific one, quote, "I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all." Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage, and I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world.
We didn't ask you about meeting with many, many world leaders or traveling around the world. We asked you if you met with Kim Jong-un, and that's a yes or no question.
As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
You go with "as soon as it was brought to my attention" as if we were just going to glaze past the fact that something is in your book that hadn't been brought to your attention. Is the entire book a work of fiction written by somebody else who's never actually met you? I need to know why there's a portion in your book that needed to be brought to your attention. Oh, that was slick, wasn't it? Yeah, you think you slick. Out here sounding like me lying to my mama at 7 years old. Are those cookies under your bed? I'm glad you brought that to my attention.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
No, I've met with many, many world leaders.
That is a yes or no question. That is a yes or no question. I gotta try that sometime. It looks here like you have an 8-year break in your work history. What happened? You know, I met with many, many world leaders. Yeah, I travel around the world. Anybody we know? It was a lot of them.
Many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that.
I mean, except you wrote a book about your experiences and have a specific passage about meeting a world leader that is in question. What the hell is you talking about?
This anecdote shouldn't have been in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that that was adjusted. So the book is not released until Tuesday, and so we're doing all that we can to make sure that those changes are made.
Okay, so I think I got the game. You just put a bunch of fake stories in the book to see if it flies, and you release copies prematurely, and then whatever gets called out gets pulled out the book, and then you publish the rest. Is that it?
And I'm going to continue to focus on what this book is and the blueprint that it lays out for the American citizen, on all of the things in the background and stories of my life, but also what I think that needs to be identified in politics and what's broken today. I talk about how broken the money game is.
Oh, you mean something like the estate tax story you built your career on?
How broken it is that we've got consultants that are getting rich off of elected officials, and then how fake some elected politicians are.
I'm sorry. Did you just say how fake some elected officials are?
Every single person in this country wants someone in elected office that's a human being, that doesn't say they're perfect. I take responsibility for that being in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I asked for it to be changed. So I'm glad that the release date is in a couple of days, and we're excited to talk to America about my new book, No Going Back.
That was bad. That was bad. You know what? Maybe she needs another shot. You know what? Maybe her earpiece was messed up and she couldn't hear the repeated, pointed, and specific questions that she refused to answer. You know what? Why don't she go ahead and get a do-over?
Talk first, but we don't want to talk about a lot of the topics that you address in the book. But the book is called No Going Back, but it sounds like the publisher, Center Street, is going back on a couple of the details.
Well done. Well done. That girl good. Yeah, that girl good.
person. Let's talk first, but we want to talk about a lot of the topics that you address in the book. But the book is called No Going Back, but it sounds like the publisher, Center Street, is going back on a couple of the details in the book.
Oh, I don't believe so.
Specifically, when you write in the book, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me. That, as I understand, is now being removed from the book at your request.
Yes, when I became aware of that, we changed the content, and the future editions will be adjusted. And, you know, I appreciate that. I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I should not have put that anecdote in the book, and at my request, they have removed it.
If you were just running down a laundry list of the people that you've met and the places that you've been, and you threw in Kim Jong-un and North Korea, maybe, but maybe, I might give you, you know what, you traveled a lot, you met a bunch of people, and you may have thought you met them and you didn't when you were trying to remember these things. Except you said you stared him down like a little tyrant, and maybe he had underestimated you. You tried to cut a whole promo on a North Korean dictator when you ain't even met the dude. No, you don't get, I've traveled around the world and seen a lot of people. What, you think this is all the places you'll go?
That specific
meeting didn't happen?
I'm saying that I'm not talking about that meeting. I'm not talking about my meetings with world leaders.
But you
there's
do
some
talk
that are
about
in the
meetings
book.
with world leaders.
There's some that are in the book, and then there's some that's not in the book.
Who raised y'all? I just need to know who raised y'all. I don't, for the life of me, understand how you go with, I've met with many different leaders and I'm not at liberty to discuss my meetings with certain leaders when you're asked about a specific leader that you talked about meeting that you're now having to remove from your book. I need to know who told you that was a suitable answer to that question. When did they do this?
But why are there two specific mentions of meeting Kim Jong-un and talking about him, and a specific memory? I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. Did you tell your ghostwriter to write that?
I specifically have worked on policy for over 30 years. And over that time, I have traveled around the world, and I have met with leaders around the world. And that anecdote, I've asked them to change the content, and it will be removed.
It's a simple question. Did you or did you not meet with Kim Jong-un?
That's the answer that I have for you, is that it will be adjusted.
Now, mind you, there's also pushback about a Nikki Haley anecdote where she got the year wrong, and she says she was threatened by Nikki Haley, but Nikki Haley's camp says that, no, we reach out to lots of people. We have no idea what the hell she's talking about. Now, here's the thing about lying. When you sit there and tell me that I'm not at liberty to discuss my meetings with world leaders, I've traveled the world and met lots of people, and that's your response to being asked about meeting Kim Jong-un, and you're removing it from the book, I'll believe anybody else over you at this point. Like, I literally will believe if somebody came and told me that they were the real governor of South Dakota, I would have to believe them, because your credibility is negative. This couldn't possibly get any worse.
You talk multiple times about it. In fact, at the end of the book, you say the very first thing you would do if you got to the White House that was different from Joe Biden is you'd make sure Joe Biden's dog was nowhere on the grounds. Commander, say hello to Cricket. Are you doing this to try to look tough? Do you still think that you have a shot at being a VP?
First of all, I have no idea what she's being paid, but give her a raise.
Are you doing this to try to look tough? Do you still think that you have a shot at being a VP?
That was phenomenal. More questions need to be asked, followed by, did you do this because you thought it made you look tough? That is well done. That is well done. And then double down that with, do you think you still got a shot? Hell yeah.
Are you doing this to try to look tough? Do you still think that you have a shot at being a VP?
Well, number one, Joe Biden's dog has attacked 24 Secret Service people. So how many people is enough people to be attacked and dangerously hurt before you make a decision on a dog and what to do with it?
Well, he's not living at the White House
That's the question that the president should be held accountable to.
You're saying he should be
That's
shot?
what the president should be accountable to, is what is the number? And I would say about Republicans criticizing me, these are the same Republicans that criticized me during COVID.
Oh, you mean the COVID that you mismanaged to the point of having one of our worst mortality rates despite having less than 1 million people spread out over our 17th largest state? That COVID?
They've criticized me when I've made other decisions in South Dakota to protect my state. And my state today is extremely happy.
I know why they're happy. I know why they're happy. Because they just found out that they could ban her from portions of the state. That's why they're happy.
So you're not going to retract the book
and to prevent China.
Governor?
This book is a powerful book. It's an honest book.
And I will give her that. It is, in fact, an honest book. It is a book that honestly shows you the entire ass of MAGA and specifically Kristi Noem.
But if you have to retract it or parts of it.
I'm not retracting anything.
Okay.
I'm not retracting anything.
All right.
No.
All right, Governor.
Absolutely. This book.
Thank you.
No, I'm not retracting anything. Just the parts of the book that y'all know I lied about. Y'all don't know there's way more in there. Y'all could have made me retract. And if you're wondering how this came to be, how somebody came to be like this, where they're talking about shooting a dog in the face and making up stories that they're having to pull from the book and claim that it's an honest book. Who acts like this?
But I also think it's a case study in where my former political party is. Look, I served with Kristi Noem. She wasn't this way 8, 9, 10 years ago. Every one of my former Republican colleagues, Jessica, has learned to be like Trump, to be cruel, to lie, to never, ever apologize, to never back down. She's trying to be like Trump.
And to think, this was all to please Donald Trump. All that work you did to please Donald Trump. Guess you're going to have to try again next time. Your career is in the gravel pit.
Her family, she writes, also owned a male goat that was nasty and mean because it had not been castrated.
Was the goat supposed to castrate himself? Did you give the goat some money to go into town and get his castration done, and then he stole the money? He just blew it on carrot wine. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem's journey to being Trump's VP pick hit a puppy-sized speed bump last week when, well, I'll let them tell it.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem released a new book. The Guardian got its hands on a copy, and the outlet is flagging a section in which she describes killing her dog named Cricket. All right, so it begins here. Cricket was a wire hair pointer, about 14 months old, she says, adding that the dog, a female, had an aggressive personality and needed to be trained to be used for hunting pheasants.
She includes her story about the ill-fated Cricket, she says, to illustrate her willingness in politics as well as in South Dakota life to do anything, quote, difficult, messy, and ugly, end quote, if it simply needs to be done.
Now, wait a minute. I'm confused because you said that she had a naturally aggressive personality, but you're trying to prove that you're willing to do anything ugly and messy and whatever has to be done. Y'all sound like two peas in a pod.
By taking Cricket on a pheasant hunt with older dogs, Noem says she hoped to calm the young dog down and begin to teach her how to behave.
It's just a puppy. All right, unfortunately, Cricket ruined the hunt, she said, going, quote, out of her mind with excitement, chasing all the birds and having the time of her life.
Now, wait a minute. Now, you went to hunt pheasants, And Cricket is being a problem because she's chasing birds.
Noam describes calling Cricket, then using an electronic collar to attempt to bring her under control. Nothing worked. Then, on the way home after the hunt, as Noam stopped to talk to a local family, Cricket escaped Noam's truck and attacked the family's chickens.
So, quote, grabbing one chicken at a time, crunching it to death with one bite, then dropping it to attack another.
Well, it sounds like Cricket is willing to do anything ugly or messy and whatever has to be done. I mean, she should probably get some votes in the South Dakota gubernatorial election.
Cricket, the untrainable dog, Noam writes, behaved like a, quote, trained assassin.
Did you just say the untrainable dog for hunting operated like a trained assassin?
Cricket, the untrainable dog, Noam writes, behaved like a, quote, trained assassin.
What level did you complete in school?
When Noam finally grabbed Cricket, she says the dog, quote, whipped around to bite me. Then, as the chicken's owner wept, Noam repeatedly apologized, wrote the shocked family a check, quote, for the price they asked, and helped them dispose of the carcasses littering the scene of the crime.
Gotta love the scene of the crime. Now, I have to ask you, does Cricket understand what pheasants are? Because if you're trying to train her to hunt pheasants and she just went ham chasing birds, I believe pheasants are a bird, but then went ham on the chickens, sounds like she just misunderstood what pheasants meant. And that ain't a Cricket problem, that's a you problem, because we already established your command of the English language is limited.
Okay, through it all, Noam says Cricket was, quote, the picture of pure joy.
And that's when you knew you had to take Cricket out. Ain't gonna be no pure joy around me. Ain't gonna be no pure joy around me. Ain't nothing happy around me. Not my family, certainly not my spouse. I'll get to that one. And certainly not my constituents. If I see pure joy, I'm getting a gun.
I hated that dog, Noam writes, adding that Cricket had proved herself, quote, untrainable, dangerous to anyone she came in contact with, and less than worthless as a hunting dog.
So at that moment, Noam says, I realized I had to put her down. Noam, who also represented her state in Congress for 8 years, got her gun, then led Cricket to a gravel pit. It was not a pleasant job, she writes, but it had to be done. And after it was over, I realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. Incredibly, Noam's tale of slaughter is not finished.
What you mean it's not finished?
Her family, she writes, also owned a male goat that was nasty and mean.
Oh, now you're just a serial killer on the loose. I have watched enough court TV and ID to know what happens when a serial gets the first taste of blood. You ain't fooling me, Kristi Noem. You just went off on a spree.
Her family, she writes, also owned a male goat that was nasty and mean because it had not been castrated.
Naturally.
Furthermore, as one knows.
Now here I have to ask you, whose fault was it that the goat, because you're blaming the goat's personality that it had been castrated. Was the goat supposed to castrate himself? Did you give the goat some money to go into town and get his castration done, and then he stole the money? He just blew it on carrot wine and came back fully intact? Is that what happened? Or did you not castrate the goat, the thing that you are blaming for his behavior? This is somebody really appearing on TV regularly?
The goat smelled disgusting, musky, rancid, and loved to chase Noam's children, knocking them down and ruining their clothes.
Noam decided to kill the unnamed goat the same way she had just killed Cricket the dog. But though she dragged him to a gravel pit, the goat jumped as she shot and therefore survived the wound. Noam says she went back to her truck, retrieved another shell, and hurried back to the gravel pit and put him down. At that point, Noam writes, she realized the construction crew had watched her kill both animals. The startled workers swiftly got back to work, she writes, only for a school bus to arrive and drop off Noam's children.
So you mean to tell me you also terrified witnesses in the process of your spree? You got terrified construction workers and children on scene, and this was what you just had to put in your memoir?
Kennedy looked around confused. Noam writes of her daughter who asked, "Hey, where's Cricket?" This is not a joke. If you are thinking this is not true, Noam has now defended the scenes in the statements that she made in her own book, saying she loves animals, but tough decisions happen all the time on a farm. In fact, she says they recently put down 3 horses.
Now, as you can probably guess, when this hit the timeline, she was in the doghouse. In fact, so many people tweeted, "I can't believe I agree with Cat Turd," that Cat Turd was trending. But it went further with people saying this is the end of her chance to be Trump's VP pick. Even Ron DeSantis saw fit to dance on her gravel pit. And to that I say, this? So this is what did it. So it was totally fine when she went on CNN and...
The law in your state is similar. It's an abortion ban, including areas where a woman is raped or in times of incest. So do you believe that the law in your state goes too far, just as he said about Arizona? Are you with him on that, or do you think that he's wrong?
You know, it's interesting because the law in my state was passed decades before I ever became governor. It was a trigger law that said when Roe v. Wade became overturned, that this would be the law that would go into place. So that may be a topic that will continue to be discussed in South Dakota. Our law today allows an exception to save the life of the mother, but the people in South Dakota will decide what their laws look like.
What do you think it should look like?
I can have an opinion, and I can weigh forward, and I can look at the science and what we've learned about babies in the womb, and to believe that we should protect life. But I think that our law today is what South Dakota wants, and they'll continue to have that debate, and I'll continue to follow through in my role, which is to make sure the will of the people is enforced.
Do you think there should be exceptions for rape and incest, for example?
And I think that every state's going to look different. That's what's different, Dana, is that I've constantly looked, and we rely in South Dakota on the fact that I'm pro-life, and we have a law that says that there is an exception for the life of the mother. And I just don't believe a tragedy should perpetuate another tragedy.
Tragedy. She called rape a tragedy, like somebody just fell into a hole or got struck by rape. That was fine, but this is the thing, the dog. Like, it wasn't a red flag that she didn't know the state of New York operated an independent legal system just like the one in South Dakota that allows her to wander around shooting dogs.
Because Donald Trump himself acknowledged in 2018 that he authorized payments to Stormy Daniels and reimbursed Michael Cohen. We actually have the reimbursement checks to Cohen signed by Donald Trump. So those are the facts. Are you comfortable with this?
Michael Cohen worked for President Trump. President Trump paid his legal fees. He paid his Michael Cohen legal fees and bills, and that's what this trial will bring forward, hopefully, is the truth. What a ridiculous case that this is, and that it's based on the narrative today that is coming from a man who is proven to be a liar. So I'm hoping that this judge makes the right decision. I'm hoping these jurors can come in and be unbiased, and we'll let this case go forward in a swift manner that allows President Trump to get back on the campaign trail. Americans deserve to hear from their candidates, and the Democrats and the activists are using this trial to derail him, to keep him in court instead of out talking to Americans about what their real concerns are. And their real concerns are their everyday lives. They need a leader in the White House who gets up every day and puts them first and doesn't raise their taxes, doesn't overregulate them, take away their freedoms, and give all our money to other countries instead of making sure that we're taking care of America first and keeping us safe and secure.
I just want to say for the record, there's absolutely no evidence that President Biden is involved in this. This is a case that is being brought in the state of New York.
It wasn't a problem that she allegedly had an affair with Corey Lewandowski. In fact, so many people posted about that Lewandowski was trending. And it wasn't for this. Of course, an affair in itself isn't a deal breaker. Am I right, Trump? And Boebert. And Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Corey Lewandowski, the married father of 4 who was fired for allegedly grabbing a female reporter. By the way, this took me down a rumor rabbit hole, and apparently Cocksure Corey was getting it in. First it was Hope Hicks and then Noam, but then she supposedly dumped him after he propositioned a rich donor's wife, and Noam went back to her husband, and Hicks moved on to Rob Porter, who resigned over allegations he abused his 2 ex-wives, and then Brad Parscale, who you might remember being arrested.
Get on the ground, man. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground, man. Easy. Get on the ground. What do you say?
And then committed by Florida police after his wife, yes, his wife, called them. Hope Hicks got worse taste in men than the Detroit Pistons. She got worse taste in men than all the Kardashians put together. Now, I know what Marjorie Taylor Greene's wig holder meant when he said that liberal women were ugly.
Liberal women tend to be some of the ugliest women I've ever seen. And I'm serious. I mean, zero makeup.
Well,
they take no pride in their, well, they want to be men. They take no pride in their dress, their attire, their makeup, their haircut. Half of them look like men. Hairy armpits, hairy legs. Come on. That is not embracing what it means to be a woman.
Yeah, standards can feel ugly when you can't reach them. Link to that video is in the bio, by the way. None of this was a problem, but the dogs is the thing. Not that she's facing a new lawsuit from consumer advocacy group Travelers United accusing Noam of doing an undisclosed advertisement for Smile, Texas.
Well, hi, I'm Christine Noam. I'm the governor of South Dakota and had the opportunity to come to Smile, Texas to fix my teeth, which has been absolutely amazing.
Or promoting a business owned by the son of the Secretary of State Department of Public Safety on Twitter. Or when she said COVID was going to magically miss her state and turn down federal unemployment assistance, but spent $5 million on South Dakota travel ads. And then South Dakota had one of the worst 10 death rates in the country, despite having less than 1 million people spread out over our 17th largest state. Or the fact that she built her career on the hardship her family faced because of the estate tax that hit after her father's death, and it was mostly proven to be a complete lie. Or the fact that she, the governor of South Dakota, is now banned from some parts of her state after tribes voted to legally bar her from reservation land after she made comments linking tribal leaders to drug cartels. Just think about that. She's pushing for a bigger platform when she's banned from parts of her own. That's like the AARP banning Ron DeSantis, or black people banning Ron DeSantis. Actually, both probably should look into that. Can we do that? Can we do that? None of that was a problem, but the dogs, that's the thing. Well, looks like that won't be a problem either. Welcome to Street Politics. My name is Reese Waters. Now, as I have very well documented, Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has ascended to prominence, and I mean front seat in the Democratic Party.
And let me tell you why nobody wants to talk to y'all behind closed doors, because y'all lie. That's just the bottom line. You have done it thus far in this investigation. You have done it this far as it relates to this committee. In every single hearing, y'all spin. I don't know how y'all are still standing right now, because you should be quite dizzy from all the spinning that you're constantly doing when it comes to spinning the truth.
And with good reason. She tells it like it is, and she quite frankly expresses from the House exactly what I'm expressing and thinking from my house.
It was hitting me a little differently as a black woman sitting here, because it almost seemed as if you either get diversity or you get qualifications. It did not seem as if my colleague understood that someone can be diverse and qualified. And it is why you have people like me that get very frustrated, not just in the halls of Congress, but in general in this country. Because as I'm sitting here, and there seemed to be this question of you're either diverse or you're qualified, all I could think about was the fact that I currently hold an honorary doctorate. I also hold a Juris Doctorate. I also hold a bachelor's. I also technically hold the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Civil Air Patrol, and I actually practiced law for almost 2 decades, in addition to serving on various boards, in addition to being a prior state lawmaker. And there are those that would make some people believe that because I happen to be black and or a woman, that somehow, even though I can rattle off all the qualifications in the world, my blackness makes me unqualified. Bleach blonde, bad built, butch body.
She most recently took to The View to give a little bit more insight into her perspective.
Which was the point of you calling that out, though, because that was the rule in that room, that they should have stopped her.
Correct. So the thing was, Comer was given an opportunity to decide how he was going to conduct hearings going forward.
Right.
The reality is that there can be a complete devolution of this process, or you can get it under control. Unfortunately, there has been this situation with Marjorie where she is a bully, and no one ever responds. And so the idea was she would just get away with it again. And for me, she basically just mimics Trump. And because she mimics Trump, she is one of their top fundraisers, period.
Okay, listen to what Jasmine Crockett is saying. She just asserted you set the rules of engagement. We came in with an understanding of certain rules of engagement, and you have changed those rules of engagement by virtue of your lack of oversight and lack of checking of Marjorie Taylor Greene, amongst others, quite frankly. So now that the rules of engagement have changed, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. In other words, is this the smoke you want?
There has been this situation with Marjorie where she is a bully, and no one ever responds. And so the idea was she would just get away with it again. And for me, she basically just mimics Trump.
And we see something we've heard before, which is the sycophants in the Freedom Caucus and the MAGA crowd mimicking Trump. We've seen it with Kristi Noem caught out in 4K with assertions about Kim Jong-un just outright refusing to admit that it wasn't true. Caught in 4K. She still refused to admit it wasn't true, supposedly a book that she wrote. That is downright Trumpian. Here you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is legislating by virtue of her Twitter account. And knowing that the more outrageous she acts, the more outrageous she behaves, the more attention she gets and the more money she's able to raise, which is another thing to keep in mind. The fundraising. We've seen that time after time after time after time. For goodness sakes, Lauren Boebert is fundraising off of Beetlejuice. For goodness sake, she just fundraised off of getting everybody to turn their back on her when she showed up at Trump's trial for a PR stunt, something I documented right here on this very own channel. There is nothing so outrageous that they won't find a way to try and make some money off it. So if that's what we're doing, well, that's what we're doing.
And because she mimics Trump, she is one of their top fundraisers, period. She is the 5th highest fundraising member of the Republican Party, behind those in leadership, because she is rewarded for her antics.
The mindset that it takes to give, not because of good policy, not because they want to support somebody and the hard work they're undertaking in order to make America a great place, but because they acted so extravagantly that they own the libs. That's the kind of thing that's getting people to take money out of their wallets, out of their pockets. The same people that will fix their fingers to call Jasmine Crockett a DEI representative will give money to Marjorie Taylor Greene, whose qualifications involve chin-ups. And that thing with the chef.
These are people that not only were saying on January 6th, let's literally physically tear down the institution, but we have people that are tearing our institution apart from within. And that is a problem. And see, the thing is, it's not about partisanship at all.
There you have a very key point. When you have these knuckleheads that showed up on the mall, able to actually infiltrate Congress thanks to their gerrymandered districts, they are able to enact the same plan and engage in the same behaviors from inside our government and tell me that Marjorie Taylor Greene and her behavior wouldn't have been right at home on the lawn on January 6th.
I will work with anybody that wants to make this a better country, and we don't have to agree on everything. Yes. But where we can find common ground, let's get to work and stop doing this ridiculousness. Yes.
That is an interesting thought. We don't have to agree on everything, but let's get to work to try and make America a great place. That is an interesting approach to legislating, because I wonder what would be the approach on the opposite side of the aisle towards somebody who you disagree with.
Just we're the nicey nice guys, and we want to be friends with all the Democrats, and we want to be able to, hey guys, we'll give you this one and you give us that one, and we'll pass your bill if you pass our bill, and then we'll all go and have drinks together later on. And that is not where we are in this country. Not at all, and the American people know it, and that's why they're so angry and so upset. So that was my one and only time listening to Frank Luntz, and I thought, I don't think I'll ever do one of these sessions again.
You have fundraised off of merchandise around this, and you've gotten some pushback from people saying, you know, are we just lowering the institution if we're both kind of playing into this? How do you respond to that?
Kind of like the audience just did. Listen, here's the deal. There are people such as Trump that want to peddle Bibles, peddle gym shoes, peddle whatever it is, in anything that he can sell, he's going to sell it. And he's not doing it for his party. He's doing it for self. So what she meant for evil, in my opinion, God meant for good. And so that's what I was going to do in that moment.
Now I'll be dead real with you. It is lowering the office. It is lowering. Ain't no way around it. Ain't no way around it. But it's not so much as lowering the office as joining the office where it currently sits. Because as she has already outlined, office been lowered. Office has been lowered. And for far too long, the Democrats have been ignoring that fact and acting like they're operating within this system from decades ago that is still as esteemed and respected as it was before it was darkened by MAGA. This is a very famous restaurant. In fact, a lot of former presidents used to eat here. Oh yeah? What you got to say about the 3 rat notices sitting in the window, huh? You gonna go off how it used to be decades ago, or the fact that they just got shut down Saturday?
When I set out to do the trademark, that is not personally done. It's done under the campaign. It was because there was a demand. I'm a business major who also is a lawyer. So the two things came together, right? Yeah. So this is about making sure that we can raise the monies. It's so that I can help save our democracy. My money goes to frontliners, people that are in fights to make sure that we can take the House. Yeah. We've seen that the House has been run like a circus. Yes. We need Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker of the House. Right. And so if they lose the House, I'm just go ahead and blame it on Marjorie.
And as will I, for all the work that Marjorie Taylor Greene has put into destroying the GOP's functionality. That is why she is the secret agent, Capitol Hill Karen. She even had a few words for Bob Costello in his testimony in Trump's hush money trial.
They had Costello on the stand, and Costello had just come before my weaponization committee, and I didn't like him then. And so he was like the last person that they pulled together to testify. He was the guy that was trying to say that he was Michael Cohen's attorney. Right. And basically, they got into this back and forth trying to prove that he was really his lawyer and this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, where's the retainer agreement? Everybody knows there has to be a retainer. And then,
we don't work for free.
Right. And who brought out the retainer agreement? The state. Yeah. And so the prosecutor was like, here it is. Ain't nobody signed it, though. I'm like, boy, like, why did y'all put this boy on? Yeah. I mean, literally, like, it was just like, okay, so y'all are really bad. But, like, what good attorney is going to go work for Trump at this point? Not anybody that wants to.
He doesn't pay people.
He doesn't pay, and you lose your license and or go to prison.
Oh, you lose your license and go to prison for free. That is a different kind of pro bono. That is a pro boned. That's what I call that. She did kind of hurt my heart though when she asked why did they put this boy on, because it reminds me of a number of my stand-up performances, especially during my early years. In fact, it was said exactly in that voice. Was it Jasmine Crockett booing me?